Well, compañeros and compañeras, my name is Poncho Guevara, and I'm a member of the Reimagining Public Safety Community Advisory Committee, and I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:35 p.m. So I'm going to go through, let's see, hopefully. Let's see if I can open this up. Hopefully you can see on the screen. Meeting is called to order again. We are here to engage in a community-led process that we believe can lead to meaningful recommendations for reform and alternatives to policing in our community. If anyone needs translation or interpretation, please mark the little globe at the bottom. Si necesitas traducción, es disponible en español. Necesitas solamente marcar el globito si hay un problema. Si algún momento durante la reunión tiene dificultades técnicas, llamar a Lori Valdez a 408-661-1084 para que podamos resolver esos problemas rápidamente. Let's see. Couple things. If you're nominated to serve on this committee by an organization, you should have received an invitation to be a panelist. If you sign in with the email that was sent to you, it should set automatically. For some reason, you were not automatically set up as a panelist and were nominated, you'll be promoted. Please pay attention to your screen to accept the promotion to panelist, as it requires you to accept the promotion. All right, I'm going to jump into land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we host this meeting on the lands of the Makna Ohlone people who have stored this land through the generations. We commit ourselves to partner with our indigenous sisters and brothers to celebrate and honor their legacy and our collective work for justice and our care for these lands we benefit from today. So I'm going to roll right into our conversation, our main conversation this evening, which is the adoption of our review and approve the report, the Reimagining Public Safety Community Advisory Committee report. Quick update after last week's meeting where we had a full draft that we were able to share with everyone, able to receive a handful of other typo comments and a couple other things, and I wanted to be able to review them with folks this evening in terms of what in terms of a final draft report. I'm dropping into the chat a link to the to this, but I'll be showing this on the screen. So for any attendees or panelists that did not receive the link to this earlier today, again, it's the same content, just put into a report format for people to be able to look at. It'd be great if there are a couple little other things that we could do from a formatting perspective, but I just want to be able to share that with folks this evening. All right, let me see if I can get this right. All right, so if you're following along from home, let's see. Am I getting this right? Apologies, there we go. All right, so this is the draft report. Again, same content, just want to point out a couple little, a few things that have been done in terms of the layout that actually are slightly different than the flow of the Google Docs document that you had before. Some of the information that was shared that refer to different statistics or other pieces have been brought into like little pull boxes so they don't flow exactly with the text. We added the membership nominating organizations for both this body and the youth council, included that. That wasn't in that before, but all information you've had before. The summary of findings from the people's budget. So this comes right from the people's budget. So there are a couple of about 4 paragraphs and a little explanation of a little bit more of that. We already have this information, this in there. Again, all this is the same text and background and summaries of all the information, alternative safety response recommendations, traffic, the ones around traffic safety, they've all been numbered appropriately, and We've been able to fix a couple little typos here and there. Some information, again, this is the families, improving community conditions. This all remains the same. Civilian oversight and accountability added, in addition to, I think, Sandra, you had given some of the information about the People's Budget Survey. I added the version of the pie chart that Dr. Armelin's team had done, as part of the People's Budget. So I like pilfering from your team, Will, sharing some of that information. So that's included in this particular slide. Under the police conduct, similarly, we experienced this with police, included that particular pull-out, pie chart. There was one typographical change, or one material change that was added last week. I'll fix that little, there's an extra dot there, extra period there. There was, let's see, under the body-worn camera footage, there was an element about the need to use it. Oh gosh, where is it? That it would not use copyrighted music. Darn it, I can't remember which one that was. But there was a recommendation to actually change that. Let me see if I can find that. Maybe it didn't get added. Oh, I'm sorry. It actually has to do with the critical incidents. Okay, the city will return unedited body cam footage to the public without captions. And then it was suggested to add audio commentary or copyrighted music. So, Homa, does that sound okay?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay, great. I know that was something that was brought up last week. And let's see. And I wish I had a better pictures. These are just snapshots that I took from being at the protests in 2020 personally, but some of them turned out okay. I think we have all those other little changes and typos have been fixed so far. And then one note is that in like one small add to the conclusion statement, which wasn't in the earlier version of the draft, was the responsibility to make our communities safe falls on all of us, not only the police. We must work together to improve the social conditions that leave too many in a state of insecurity. That's the only other sentence that's been added, to this. And I think the last thing I wanted people to be able to check out when it comes to, I think all this process stuff was there before, kind of, again, going over in some greater detail in terms of what we promised we were going to be doing to the council, but that's in Appendix 1 as process. This is a brief summary of what we've done. Like, I think most of this was included in there, but we added a couple of other, kind of key topics. I don't know if there are other topics that we may want to highlight. I didn't want to make this an exhaustive list of everything that we discussed over the last 7 months. But it really, but I think it does capture most of the conversation that we had, and I was having at the beginning, right before the meeting began, I had Lori review the lived experience testimonies, and I want to make sure we didn't fail to capture any of the individuals that gave lived experience testimonies as part of our work here. Just to note, we did accept the youth council report. We are still awaiting the narrative from it. So in the interim, this is these are the presentation that they made. I'm sorry for it kind of, it's a little pixelated in terms of maybe in the version that you're looking at, but we'll clean that up as part of it. But this is what we had accepted. I was hoping they were supposed to be sending over the narrative, shortly. So, but in essence, it's the same recommendations and making sure that we're okay with that. So I threw those in, and that is the report. What we'll include also are links within this document to the actual recommendations, the full write-ups of the recommendations will be included as links to this on as part of the final appendix. But I just wanted to share this with everyone, see if anyone had any final edits, changes, recommendations, things before we we can, if anyone has any questions from members of the committee about what's happened or what's going on, and then I would love to entertain a motion to accept the final report, and then we can get into a discussion of anything of substance. So, any questions about anything that's happened thus far before we start discussing the motion, a motion to accept?
I have a question, Poncho. Did we include the women, the two women who came from being homeless to being housed, in their testimonies? Because I thought theirs was very powerful, since they were once homeless and everything that the police put them through.
Absolutely. In fact, those individuals, those names are Marcelina Tagnod and Jackie Germain. They were both they're both included in the lived experience testimony list.
Okay, great.
Great. Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Pancho. Just for clarification on this report, will it be, it's going to be presented to the council. Will there be any further public meetings before it's presented to the council, or any other additional meetings where the public can weigh in?
Jim, we haven't planned any thus far, but that's a great idea for us to be able to organize things. And if we'd want to make that as part of a motion, that would be perfectly wonderful to be able to do in terms of what some next steps are and give us a little bit of practice.
Right, exactly. I know I put it out to the various neighborhood associations and leadership groups, and we have had a couple of sessions, but the response hasn't been that overwhelming, to be honest. And I was hoping that the public could do a little bit more input into the final report, so that we have a really good comprehensive report, and that a lot of the questions would be answered before it went to council, saving maybe a little bit of time in moving the report ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. All right. Any other questions about what went into the report? So I would like to ask for a motion to accept this report and forward it to council if we could, and then we could get into a discussion on the motion. So is there a motion?
This is Zihoma. I like to motion to accept this report and forward it to City Council.
Thank you, Homa. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Sandra. All right. The motion is on the floor. So now let's, are there any members of the committee that would like to weigh in on the motion? Jim.
Yes, as mentioned before, I just like to maybe, if there's a possibility of before it going to council, and I'm not sure when it would go to council, if there could be maybe just a couple more public meetings to include naturally the public, so that they can weigh in on weigh in on the report actually. And as mentioned before it went to council, just so we could maybe vet out a few of the things that are of concern to the neighborhoods in our residents.
Thank you, Jim. I think you had mentioned you weren't sure when this would be going to council. I think last week's meeting I mentioned that it looks like if we're able to wrap this up this week, then we will be able to, there's a window for the council meeting on May the 10th for us to be able to make a presentation to the council and get things moving before all things get baked for the budget and other types of things. So that seems like it could be a good timing. So
Yeah, I see. That doesn't leave a lot of time for public to get it out to the public, really.
yeah, and I was hoping people from the public would be able to come to these meetings and be able to give some of the feedback as well. We've been doing these every couple of weeks for a little while now, but Sandra.
Yeah, couple questions. I'm wondering, since, officially this is our last meeting and we were only authorized, right, for a very limited amount of time, is it even legal, I guess is the word, for us to hold additional public input sessions, or would it be the process be more for the organizations that were nominated to go meet with their constituencies and get feedback that way? I guess I'm just kind of wondering how the mechanics work with what Jim's suggesting, given that we're supposedly officially dissolved or whatever. And then second question is, I was wondering, if we approve this report and we find other little typos and things, would that mean we could or could not then adjust those?
Chris, you may have answers to those questions. Take it away.
I was just going to say that generally in reports and recommendations like these, once there aren't any substantive edits that are made that are not approved by the full body. So that means that generally what we want to forward is something that we've all had a chance to vote on. Edits are not one considered to be like typos and grammatical errors. I don't think those would be considered as substantive, but that's the normal practice, is that the substance of the report is approved by the voting members.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments, questions, concerns from members of the committee?
Yeah, this is Jim again. If we weren't able to have public meetings, then, and because it would be agendized on the council agenda, it would be okay then to pass it out to various leadership groups, even though we wouldn't be able to have a public meeting, so that they would be aware that the report would be coming to council, of course, and they could attend to make their public comments then.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. And I would also welcome Jim. If obviously they haven't been, if folks have not been coming to these particular meetings and would like for us to go to them, like I know that like myself and others would be very happy to go talk to people, share what these ideas and concepts represent, and what went into the final report. So
okay, great. That's a very good idea. It'd be appropriate if you could come to the Neighborhoods Commission, although the Neighborhoods Commission meeting, the next meeting is May 11th. So that could take after. But we certainly could pass it out that, this is coming to council, and that if they wish to have, a speaker from this group, that you'd be willing to accommodate that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And Reverend Sammy, I'm sorry you've had your hand up, but just to conclude this with, with Jim, the other thing that I shared last week, and what we understand is probably going to take place with this, is that we're going to be sharing this report with the council, because that's what we were chartered to do. But it doesn't mean that the council is going to be taking action on everything, like for it may be several months, because the administration is going to be absorbing hundreds of recommendations from the 4 to 6 different processes that the city's engaged in over the last several months. I know Siobhan, you have another report that's also forthcoming, I believe, and some other things that are happening. So there's a lot that the council is going to be absorbing, and probably not bringing back some of their interpretation or reaction or implementation strategies or other ideas until later in the fall, probably the October to December, range. So this is just, again, presenting our concepts and ideas, and starting to weigh in on them. So
yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. They're not going to be coming back with, approvals anytime soon. It's going to be a process, and this is really just, I see this as a foundation for starting off the conversation, police reform. So I look at it that way.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Reverend Sammy, sorry.
That's okay. My question actually is with regard to this and specifically to Jim. Jim, if I heard you correctly, when you kind of introduced this idea, you'd already brought some of this forward to some of the neighborhood associations, and there wasn't a lot of excitement around it. Was there anything specific that that you could pass along to us in this time as we're thinking about what is in this report? I mean, is there anything that you have from those groups to bring, or was it just kind of a general conversation?
Yeah, there wasn't anything really specific that came out of those. We did have the public meetings with our individual ad hoc committee that we put out to the public. There is some concern, and I agree with the concern that some of our most at-risk residents are real concerned, and that some of the most at-risk residents I'm referring to, some of the elderly, are concerned about their protection. They're not as able to protect themselves as some of the younger people. So there is a concern among the senior citizens about how well they're going to be remain protected given the changes. So there is always that concern. They're vulnerable. Some of them are very elderly that I've spoken to about different proposals and things. So they are concerned. So I'll bring that back to you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none from the committee, I wanted to throw this to members of the public. Any attendees that would like to be able to share some of their comments on the approval of this report. Mr. Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. From what I'm understanding, it's nice that this report can make it to council so soon, May 10th. I think it's kind of interesting. And just to, question the words of the previous speakers, is there, you talked about leadership groups, you talked about bringing it back to the groups, where people have come from on this committee and bring it back to their community groups. Those are two really important ways that I think after May 10th, I hope that we can really organize that way. And you said, you'd be happy, Pancho, you said you'd be happy to meet with, community groups throughout. I think that could be, it was just nice to hear these ideas going, and it just seems that can be good ways to be working after May 10th. And if there is, because I guess technically you're not technically a committee anymore, a task force after tonight, after somewhat soon. Hopefully there can be some way you can offer an extension to that. And yeah, I think you're explaining it well. I think after May 10th, a way to organize, in our smaller community groups, ways to be talking about these things and learn and inviting community in those ways can be really helpful and will be needed after May 10th, because there will be revisions needed, and there will be some further negotiations, I guess, of issues and stuff. Today, for instance, Councilperson Carrasco brought out a really interesting, I'll sum up here. She brought out a really interesting how the future of the Planning Commission can all be aligned under the same commission rules, basically. And that was not fully agreed to by, the more conservative members like Councilperson Jones and Davis. So it's going to take some work, what we're going to have to be doing. We have to be working on what is healthy, open, and progressive and decent, like what Carrasco is doing today. She simply wants to line up our better practices, how we can work, and legal language issues and stuff. And it's the good stuff. So just if we make those sort of efforts this summer, really coordinate that and make it an open community process, share with our elderly, share, and then connect that with our young people. We can do all of that. That's really creating a good community experience. So good luck what we can be doing after May. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beekman. Ihoma.
Hello, yes. Just speaking to the desire to communicate to various groups. My understanding is that all of the sort of original recommendations will be included in the appendix. And so all of those, I think, contain the contact information of the writer. So that might be a possible avenue to invite particular groups, even when this committee is dissolved. It has preserved the contact information of the writers that sort of form those recommendations. So you can invite them to address particular concerns.
Thank you. Any other members of the committee or the public would like to speak to the motion on the floor to accept the report? Seeing none. Is there a member of the committee that would like to call this to question?
This is Reverend Sammy. I call the question.
Thank you, Reverend Sammy. All right, we're going to proceed to a roll call vote. So, Chris, could you walk us through?
Absolutely. Dorothy Wang,
Yes.
Jamal Williams. Come back.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Kiana Simmons,
Yes.
Darcy Green,
Yes.
Ihoma Umezu-Ironini,
Yes.
Pastor Sammy Evans,
Yes.
Sandra Asher,
Yes.
Pancho Guevara,
Aye.
Rosie Chavez, you can come out through Rosie. Lori
That's
Valdez.
yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Lori Valdez,
Yes.
Jim Carter.
Yes.
All right. 11 yeas, no nays. The motion passes.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate that. Second last on our agenda is a steering committee report. And I think we just kind of gave it. The next steps are we want to be able to thank everyone for your incredible dedication, to this particular process. It was actually, I just want to take a little personal prerogative. It's been wonderful getting to know some of you and to seeing your incredible dedication and people learning from each other and being able to, for us to be able to pay attention and listen with dignity to the lived experience testimonies and the various perspectives that are on the table. I know I don't agree with 100% of all the things that came out here, but I know that the passion behind every idea and every perspective that has been surfaced and really the impact and the disparate impact that we see of some of these systems and the opportunity for us to have this dialogue has been something really, really amazing. And I just want to thank everyone for their incredible work, but there's more work to come. And so if folks would like to be part of the dialogue about how we present this to the council, we don't have an official steering committee anymore. That's been dissolved, but we would very much like if there are any volunteers to please contact Chris or myself if you'd like to help with that presentation. But we'd invite every member of this committee, both voting and non-voting members, to help weigh in and contribute some of your thoughts to council on May the 10th. And also, if like Jim was saying and Mr. Beekman was saying, there's a lot of work to follow up. I know there are different organizations and coalitions like the Real Coalition and other organizations that are going to be working to try to help advance some of these ideas or concepts. Over the next few weeks, we'd very much like to give, once this is, once we wrap this up today, we'd very much like to go speak to council members and give them a preview before May 10th. So it's not coming in, coming in out of the blue, so that they actually have some idea around that. We'd like to be organizing some of those conversations in the next few weeks. But most importantly, want to, on behalf of the steering committee, thank you everyone for your edits. Thank you for all the work that's actually gone into this effort. And we have months and months more work to actually make some of these things come to reality. So, anything else from the steering committee that we want to share? All right, seeing none, we're going to go to our last item, which is open forum. So any members of the committee or the public want to speak to an item that is not on our evening agenda, please feel free to chime in. Mr. Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Yeah, I come from the ideas of the future of openness and accountability with the future of technology and surveillance and data collection in the community. I know I'm on the outside with these things, but people like Victor Sin and Samina Usman, I think I just can imagine they can contribute something really positive and decent and important for yourselves that can be really helpful. So I'm really hopeful what the future of this sort of practices can be doing, and I just wanted to where it can be of help for this what you're doing, what we're all doing at this time. Good luck, and good luck how we can talk about the next few months. The battle isn't over in May 10th, but there's all of May we got to consider in June and the summer. And yeah, thank you for Poncho for saying those words, that it will be a long time we're going to still be working on this, and good luck how we can stay connected on these things. Thank you.
Mr. Beekman, we're counting on you to help advance a whole effort to get a surveillance policy through the council. So we'll deputize you for that.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or thoughts or threads before we adjourn? Seeing none, thank you all. I hereby adjourn the, actually, I guess, motion to adjourn? Yeah, motion to adjourn. Someone want to do that?
Seconded.
All right. All right. Thank you, folks. This meeting is adjourned, 7:07 p.m. Thank you, bless you, and we'll see you on the other side.